Having a good side escape is so important because if someone can't control you inside, it's very hard to pass your guard. So I'm going to go through, in my opinion, what are the most common mistakes people make when they're trying to escape side and go through the basics of your first side control escape.
We're going to start with the classic side, which is where my opponent has a crossface on the head and this arm is on the left side of my body, right? There's many different control mechanics and each is going to kind of require a different escape, but this is like the foundational basic one. So the first big mistake people make is they either they push with their hands too much or they grab even worse. Our job when we're trying to escape side is to create space between me and him. If I'm holding him, I'm just keeping him tight and making it easier for him. When he's really close, it's very hard to push with my hands. I'm very weak in this position. It's like a tricep extension. You're very weak. Instead of pushing with your hands, you want to focus on pushing with your forearm instead. And your hand is like this spot like right above your elbow. That's where you want to push. Because from elbow to shoulder won't bend, right? So as he comes down here, I want to keep my forearm at a slightly obtuse angle here because now I have this force, and as he drives in, he can't drive in. If my forearm is even perpendicular, his weight can slide up to the wrist and start to collapse me in. Same thing with the right arm. And this leads to the next detail, which is focusing on blocking the far side hip instead of the near side. So if my elbow and knee are connected, even if he comes into side control, get tight, it's very hard for him to stay tight. I don't really start getting crushed until he is inside of this space. Now it's very hard to move. So what a lot of people do is they're framing on this near side hip. But as I shrimp or move, he can always follow, right? I want to try to instead get my elbow and knee together. So now as he stays tight and follows, he can't follow because my elbow's blocking. Is what I focus on with my right arm is instead of framing on his hip or focusing on where I'm pushing on him, I follow this kind of scooping motion. I turn my thumb backwards and it's like I'm trying to scrape. If you could imagine the person's here he's going to stay inside. So it's like I'm coming inside and trying to scrape the person outside of that elbow knee space. If you can have a strong frame on their neck with your forearm and a strong framing inside with your elbow here, now you've locked them out of the position and you're able to move on to the next step. So another detail on framing with your arm is often once I get this forearm, I want to kind of go under his chin or his jaw here, and as he stays tight, I can kind of wing my elbow up because that drives his chin up and creates a motion that's easier to get underneath to find the space for my right elbow, and then I can start progressing.
Of course, guys, there's multiple types of side control and there's not one technique that's going to get you out of every situation. So you will need different escapes for different types of control, like a head and arm, a reverse head and arm, north-south. I'm going to do future videos on those as well. If you guys like the content, be sure to like and subscribe so you get notified for the next videos.